She waited for him, with the papers in hand, her heart a little anxious, but still believing. It was the day they were supposed to make the marriage official. But 2 hours passed, then 3. Her phone buzzed. The message said, "I forgot." No excuse, no punctuation. In that moment she didn't cry, but something inside her cracked. How do we know when it's time to stop waiting? Is it when time stops hurting the way it used to? Or when we start pretending it wasn't that important, that it would pass, that it happens to everyone? Like minimizing the pain is easier than admitting we were truly forgotten. This is Stories to Let Go. Here we tell stories about heartbreak, about relationships that ended, but always with endings that show us it's possible to smile again, to start over, and to love ourselves once more. In this story, Caroline was forgotten again, but maybe this time she'll finally choose herself. If this story speaks to you, like and share it. It might matter to someone going through the same thing. Caroline worked as a podiatrist in a small downtown clinic. She treated women almost daily, mostly older ladies. She handled their feet with tenderness, smoothing calluses, trimming nails, moisturizing. Some came just for the physical relief, others for the relief of talking. Caroline smiled between one story and another. She listened with her whole body, like someone who carries too much silence inside. The place was clean, soft, almost sterile. White coat, reclining chair, tools laid out on metal trays. But some days, even her client's exhaustion felt more real than her own. At home, she lived with him. The apartment was neutral, worn furniture, few words. They didn't fight, but they didn't dream anymore either. There was an unspoken agreement. She took care of everything, and he stayed out of the way. On weekends, Caroline made pancakes. Sometimes she left notes like, "Out early today," or "Got your cereal." He rarely replied, but she kept doing it, not out of illusion, out of habit. At night, he went to bed first. She turned off the lights, checked the locks, and lay down in silence. It felt like sleeping next to someone who had already left, but hadn't taken his body with him yet. Over time, Caroline began to wonder when it all started to fade. It didn't happen all at once. There was no fight, no break, just one forgotten thing here, another there. But there was that day. The day they were supposed to make their marriage official. It was meant to be simple, just signing the papers, making official what they already lived. She arrived early and waited. 2 hours, then 3. When her phone buzzed, the message had only one line. "I forgot." No excuse, no rush, no urgency. And the strangest part wasn't that he forgot. It was the next day, and the day after that, and the next. He never brought it up again. No apology, no mention, no attempt to reschedule. It was like the wedding had never even been spoken aloud, like she had been the only one there. The days went on, and so did she. But something inside her had shifted. She started holding in the questions she used to ask. She accepted vague answers. She filled in the silence with her own explanations. Sometimes, while listening to clients talk about their loneliness at home, she'd think, maybe this is how it starts. When we lie, just to keep going. He still fell asleep first. She still turned off the lights after. But now, she took longer to fall asleep, like his silence had crept inside her and was slowly rearranging things. After that day, Caroline began to measure everything, her words, her gestures, even the sounds in the house. She stopped cooking with music, avoided garlic smells, noisy cutlery, topics that lasted more than 2 minutes. It felt like she was always trying not to be too much, as if simply existing had made her forgettable. At the clinic, she started working faster, less talking, less connection. What once was care became routine. She dipped their feet in warm water and wondered how long it would take to finish, not because she didn't care, but because she was tired of everything that never came back. At night, she followed small rituals of absence, turned off the light quietly, rolled over slowly, slept on her side so she wouldn't touch him. Her body had learned to stop asking. She began forgetting things: appointments, birthdays, herself. She'd leave her hairbrush on the counter and look at it like it wasn't hers anymore. The pain wasn't a wound. It was evaporation. And she didn't know how much of her was still there. In the bedroom drawer, between old socks and appliance manuals, she kept the marriage license papers, neatly folded, stamped with the date he forgot. She spent days without looking at them, but she couldn't throw them away, as if the papers were proof that she hadn't imagined it all. Sometimes she'd open the drawer with no reason, gently touch the papers, then close it again. A quiet ritual, like lighting a candle for a grief no one sees. He never asked if she still thought about it. And she, of course, never said a word, because saying it would mean it still hurt. And she didn't even know if it hurt because of him, or because of everything she let die, waiting for a love that never came whole. The last time she opened that drawer, she just stood there, paper in hand, body light, chest heavy. And for the first time, she whispered, "Was it him who forgot me? Or did I erase myself so much trying to be chosen that I disappeared even from myself? Was it worth trying again? Should she change the tone? Try once more? Or would it be better to just leave, even without knowing where? Could she rebuild something there? Or would she only rebuild far away? And the hardest part, would she have the strength? Let's find out. But first, if this story made sense to you, if it echoed something inside you, subscribe to the channel so we can keep telling stories like this. And before we continue, please leave a like. It means a lot to us. It was on an ordinary Tuesday that Eleanor appeared, her first visit to the clinic. 81 years old, neat nails, a firm voice, and a presence that filled the room without making noise. She sat in the chair like she wasn't in a hurry to leave. During the appointment, she told stories with long pauses, like someone who is no longer ashamed of silence. Before putting her shoes back on, she looked at Caroline for a few seconds. Then she said softly, "You have a rare light, you know, the way you listen, the way you truly pay attention. It feels like something lights up in people when you're near." She smiled and added, "It would be wonderful if you brought that to the shelter where I spend my afternoons. We need people like you. People who know how to stay close, even when there's nothing to say." Caroline didn't promise, but she kept the card, without knowing why. Weeks later, on a gray afternoon, she went, just to see. At the shelter, time felt different, slower, heavier, more honest. No one there pretended to be happy. Silence said as much as words. The stories Caroline heard, of broken loves, long waits, impossible beginnings, felt like mirrors. They showed pieces of herself she didn't even know were still there. During one of those visits, a quiet man told her, "I spent 40 years beside someone who never really saw me. When I realized it, it was too late." He paused, slowly adjusted his cane. "I hope you still have time." Caroline smiled, unsure why. In that smile, there was more uncertainty than clarity, but also something new. Quiet, small, still without a name. Like a first step that doesn't know where it's going, but knows it can't stay in the same place. The next week, she went back to the shelter. She brought flowers, lavenders, like the ones she used to imagine in a garden she never had. They weren't for anyone specific. It was a gesture, a silent message. "I'm back." And she was, not just to the shelter, but to a part of herself that had been quiet for too long. Among people who didn't ask for anything but presence, she started remembering how it felt to laugh for real, to feel easily, to write poems in the margins of her notebooks. She didn't speak of him, or of what didn't happen. But one day, while trimming the nails of a woman with trembling hands, she heard a story that made her laugh, and the laugh came out whole, strong, free, like it had been forgotten in a corner of her chest, and finally found the way out. In that moment, she listened to herself from the inside, and what she heard wasn't silence. It was her. A few days later, Caroline opened the drawer. The marriage papers were still there, yellowed edges, folded like a promise that never held. She picked them up with both hands, looked at them for a few seconds, and without another question, she threw them away. It wasn't impulse. It was closure. That night, sitting at the kitchen table with a cup of tea, Caroline took a deep breath, and for the first time she felt it clearly. She didn't deserve to stay there. She didn't need to fight for crumbs. She didn't need to shrink herself just to be accepted. Maybe it would still take time to leave. But inside her, she had already started. And that story, the one that almost made her forget who she was finally becoming the past. So that, at last, a new future would have room to begin.